spoilers ahead. You have been warned, my pretties.
That's right, we love cheese. Well, you done goof, FromSoft. The newest patch nerfed many broken mechanics and weapons into the ground. But one slipped through the cracks, impenetrable Thorns. And honestly, it feels even more broken than Sparks, since it casts quicker and reaches very far, and being a spell means you have access to your weapon's Ash of War at any time. So, if you're prepared to kill most bosses in just 2 to 3 casts, even the final boss, then give the video a like and welcome to my Bramble Fortress build, the new strongest build in the game, post patch 12.3. But let's get 700 likes and I'll start working on the next build in case this build gets nerfed. So for the stats, I did decide to go to level 200 just to maximize the damage. However, even at level 150, the build functions the same, but instead of 2-shotting Mesmer, you 3-shot him. Whoopee. But 60 Vigor, 23 Mind for a comfortable amount of FP, since Thorns doesn't cost that much. Then 21 Endurance, which could be higher if you wanted to at the loss of damage. Then 15 Strength and 14 Dex to wield the Thrusting Shield. 43 Int to cast Stars of Ruin for toxic PvP cheese and more damage. 33 Faith for Howl of Shabriri for maximum damage. And then finally 70 Arcane. I tried a more even split, but going 70 arc gave more damage past 40, so this is the most optimal for Thorns. For a level 150 spec, you will drop Howl and lose some damage and endurance, though you may lose his secondary weapon for medium roll unless you use Godric or Radahn's Rune, because you won't have enough endurance to have like 5 weapons. Alternatively, you can also forego Faith completely using Golden Vow as an Ash of War on the shield to get a bit more damage at the loss of the other optional weapons. It's a bit more restrictive though, so I don't like that setup. But let's get into the build. The main spell is Impenetrable Thorns, which summons thorns in front of you that extend very far and split into 3 lanes, a League of Legends skill. However, if the target is close, all 3 can shotgun essentially, dealing both magic and bleed status for insane damage. It's also very cost effective, but it will consume some of your HP, but it's so minimal that it doesn't really matter, and since we're Faith, we can use Blessing's Boon to somewhat counteract that. But this spell is found in the Shadow Keep from the Storehouse 7th floor Grace on the way to Mesmer's boss room before a Fire Night. There's going to be a small ledge outside that you drop down, and just behind the bat is the spell. To maximize the spell's damage, the best staff is the new Maternal Staff, scaling both A and Int and Arc. This staff is gotten from defeating Ymir by doing his whole questline and beating the Mother of Fingers boss to trigger his fight. I will leave a link in the pinned comment that explains that quest fully. Luckily, we do have a good alternative with Albinauric's staff, until then, gotten from the base game, which scales S in Arc. So prior to getting Maternal, you would just use this staff to beat her and Ymir, and then switch to Maternal, as despite having higher sorcery scaling, Maternal deals more damage for whatever reason. So yeah, that is the optimal weapon, and you can technically use the Staff of the Guilty in your left hand too for more Thorns damage, but it's more unsafe against many bosses, so I'd rather have a shield, which is the next weapon. Despite the patch nerfing the stamina bug, I did want to incorporate thrusting shields into the build, allowing you to block attacks till you have an opening, so you can cast your thorns safely. So I went with the dueling shield, which is a pretty lightweight great shield and less stat requirements than the carrion one, with higher holy and fire resist. And because it's a thrusting shield, they can get way more Ashes of War than other shields. So I decided on Ash of War people rarely even think of, Vow of the Indomitable, which makes you literally invincible for 1 second, easily allowing you to ignore a big attack. And if you cast it a little bit preemptively, then retaliate with Thorns, you're going to cast it faster than using a normal dodge roll. But alternatively, you can go with Bloodhound Step, which is nice too. But if at any moment you wanted to attack with the shield, you simply slap on Giant's Hunt with Occult Scaling and go to town. And since we're Int, we can also cast Scholar's Shield in it as well for more damage negation. But this shield is gotten in Shadow Keep, starting from the Storehouse 1st floor Grace, proceeding up the library to this bridge with a Fire Red Knight, and jumping on this ledge here to obtain the shield. The carry and thrusting shield is also found in this area if you wanted a bit more physical negation. And for the other weapons, they're up to you, but I decided on 2 to 3 options. Number 1, cirque or backhand blades. Bringing these back from the dead 4th of July build I made, and using Swift Slash with the Colt scaling. While Swift Slash was nerfed, apparently it's still pretty toxic in PvP, so this is a great option to have if players get too close. Backhands do have slightly higher AR now, after the nerf to cirques, but cirques R2s can be thrown, which is neat. A Colt is the best for PvE since you just want a quick damage attack to one-shot a group of enemies, but for PvP, bleed might be a better option, but you'll have to test it out yourself. Then we bring back the old classic, Sword of Night and Flame. While Thorns is decent at AoE, it's still not fantastic, so Snaf is the solution with its Fire Ash of War, clearing groups easily, and its beam is always strong as well. Your other option is the Glintstone Chris. Someone in the comments in an older video said to use this to beat a lot of the stuff in the DLC, and can't confirm, it is super solid. Its Ash of War can charge up and deals good damage for the FP cost. However, with all these weapons, you won't be able to actually use their Ash of War except by two-handing them due to the shield, so keep that in mind. You would have to put the no skill infusion on the shield if you wanted to use your right hand's Ash of War along with the shield for blocking. Otherwise, aside from these, if you do want more options, you will have to pump dex up a little bit to get access to things like Astel's Wing and Spur Rapier or even Rivers of Blood, up to you. For armor, White Mask, best in slot due to the bleed proc. Then we have Alberic's chest and gloves from the base game, increasing our thorn damage. And ending on Rakshas's legs for an extra 2% damage boost. This is the best armor setup for damage for Thorns. Talismans, Blood of Exaltation for a damage boost when we trigger bleed with Thorns. Then, Magic Scorpion Charm for more Thorns damage. Graven Mass Talisman boosting our sorcery damage. And the 4th slot is up to you, but against bosses you want to delete, equip the Rot Exaltation Talisman, and then eat a raw dumpling, or even use the Poison Perfume Bottle Ash of War to poison yourself, which triggers the effect, giving you a nice 20% damage boost for 20 seconds. Otherwise, Guard Boost Talisman is nice for blocking better, or the Pearl Shield Talisman to block elemental damage better. Or, I don't know, just use the Lesser Graven Talisman for about a 4% damage boost for your spells. But for clearing levels, I do like the Crusade Insignia to keep a consistent damage boost up for every kill we get. And if you wanted to have fun with the Thrusting Shield for melee, then going with the 2-hand Talisman, Crusade Talisman, Spear Talisman, since holding block and hitting R1 counts as thrusting damage, and then Guard Boost or a Guard Counter Talisman will give you a fun, safe setup to clear levels with. For Flask, only one setup, Magic Tier for Thorns damage, and Blood Sucking Tier, pretty much the best damage tier in the game. But for the Blood Sucking Tier, you're going to want to kill the Golem in the Big Lake, near the castle from the same route on the way to Rakshasa, or you need to climb the nearby ruins and toss a hefty furnace pot, which you have to craft, onto its head, which starts it up, and then you kill it like normal. And lastly, spells. Golden Vow, damage and damage negation buff. Howl of Shabriri, worth the investment if it means I can clean 3-shot Radahn. That's kind of the whole point of the build. Kill Radahn. And this will stack with all the other buffs used in the build, but do not use any other buffs like from items, otherwise you might override it because body buffs will override Howl of Shabriri. But luckily, Blessing Boon doesn't, so we can have a healing over time effect. We have Scholar's Shield to buff our shield. Then we have Terra Magica, which puts a spell thing on the ground. You go into a boss room and cast this versus things like Mesmer for a nice damage boost in your personal space. Impenetrable Thorns, of course, is next, and the rest is up to you. But Carrion Slicer, Stars of Ruin, and Vortex of Putrescence are what I went with. Vortex for some cheesy AoE, and Carrion Slicer is a nice quick option if enemies do get up close. But you can also go with Night Comet to hit enemies from afar as well, among other things. And for the Great Rune, I recommend Radahn's Rune for more stamina, FP, and life. And yeah, that's it. Hope you guys like your Spark replacement. Luckily, Howl of Shabriri and Golden Vow mean every build I made so far is done with profit. And all footage except for Radahn was done with a plus 17 skibbity bibbity level, so you're going to deal more damage at plus 20. But yeah, give the video a like, a certain amount of likes, and I'll start working on the next build. Otherwise, I might play some Zenless Zone Zero, which was pretty fun so far. Although the account that I tried it on got furry, so I had to restart. But it is funny how the turns have tables, where we just bunny hopped from Sparks 2 to 3 shotting bosses to Thorns 2 to 3 shotting bosses. So who knows what's left? Let me know in the comments if there's any broken stuff. Now, I do get the nerfs. They're understandable. but they really do need to make a lot of stuff better too. A lot of the other spells seem really garbage, even with this setup and level. And of course, there's a lot of unique weapons that are underperforming as well, with pretty bad Ashes of War, no hyper armor, etc. But comment down below what you guys like to see next. Keep in mind though, unless there's a super obvious solution apart from fingerprint and this, I likely won't make builds around beating Radahn. I think that fight is still overtuned for a lot of weapons and spells, crippling build varieties, so I'd rather just make builds I can have fun with and are viable for 99% of the other content instead of solely around him. But yeah, let me know and subscribe for more Elden Ring epicness.
Oh, that's just true. It's just so kawaii. Let's up these thorns because it is so kawaii.